What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name's the Sweaty Casual, and it's about time for NFL Week 2 recap and updates, and then we're going to go into our Week 3 predictions. We're going to go straight into the very first game of Week 2, which was the Buccaneers and Panthers. Now, just a quick recap. I did pick the Panthers to win that game. They did not win. Buccaneers came out on top 20-14. Just a few stats from the game. Winston was 16 of 25 for 208 yards and a touchdown. Peyton Barber had 23 carries for 82 and a rushing touchdown. Chris Godwin, 121 receiving yards on 8 receptions with a touchdown. And Mike Evans, 4 receptions for 61 yards as well. And hopping over to the Panthers side, Cam Newton was 25 of 51 for 333 yards. McCaffrey only had 37 rushing yards. Olsen had 110 receiving yards. Samuel had 91 receiving yards. DJ Moore had 89 receiving yards. I'm actually trying to find out who got touchdowns for them, and I'm not seeing it, even though they got 14 points. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, and I'm not really going to get too far into it. Just like I said, I'm only doing recaps and then the predictions. Again, I picked Carolina to win that game, and they didn't. Now, let me go to the next one. Just running down Arizona and Baltimore. I did pick Baltimore to win that game, and they did leave with a 23-17 win over the Cardinals. Wasn't a very huge difference in the scoring like everybody was expecting. Kyler Murray was 25 of 40 for 349 yards. Johnson only had 14 rushing yards and 1 touchdown on the day. Christian Kirk did have 114 receiving yards, and Larry Fitzgerald did have 104 receiving yards. Let me see. Let me go over to the Ravens side. Lamar Jackson had 24 of 37 for 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also had 16 carries for 120 rushing yards. Ingram had 47 rushing yards. Mark Andrews had 112 receiving yards and a touchdown. Marquise Brown had 86 receiving yards. Ingram had 30. After that, kind of dipped down, even though Hayden Hurst did get 1 catch for 1 yard, and that was for a touchdown. Again, I picked Baltimore to win that game. They did. I kind of figured. I don't think Baltimore's super amazing just yet. I think it's a little early to buy into the hype, but they did. They did win. And Kyler Murray, I mean, he played pretty well from what I can tell. It's just some growing pains with a rookie quarterback, and just trying to progress and get up to speed at the NFL level. Moving on to the next game, I had was the Packers hosting the Vikings. The Packers did win 21-16. Not exactly the most exciting game. However, if you're a Packers fan like I am, to put up 14 points in the first quarter and 7 in the second was pretty exciting. And then, unfortunately, they kind of really didn't do anything in the second half. Cousins was 14 of 32 for 230 yards. He did have a touchdown, but he also had 2 interceptions. Dalvin Cook had 20 carries for 154 yards. 75 of them came on 1 play, and it was a touchdown. Adam Thielen had 75 receiving yards off 5 catches. Chad Beebe had 61 yards off of a catch. Stephon Diggs had a catch for 49 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, what the Packers did to level that out, Rodgers was 22 of 34 for 209 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nothing crazy, but he's also taking care of the ball. Aaron Jones had 23 carries for 116 yards and a touchdown. Adams had 7 receptions for 106 yards, and then after that it was kind of whoever can show up. Geronimo Allison had 25 yards and a touchdown. Jamal Williams had 13 yards and a touchdown. Kumara was able to get in there to get a catch for 12 yards. But like I said, after that it was just kind of like that's the thing about Green Bay right now. There isn't really a clear-cut number 2 receiver. There's very decent 3s that are kind of competing, but there's not a clear-cut number 2 right now opposite of Adams. Again, I did pick the Packers to win that game. The next one is the Niners and the Bengals. I picked the Niners to win that, and they definitely won it. It was 41-17 in Cincinnati. They got 14 points the first quarter, then 10 the second, 10 the third, 7 the fourth. So they just they kept pouring it on the Bengals, and they couldn't really do anything to come back. Garoppolo was 17 of 25 for 296 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Um, it seems that Pettis threw a pass for 16 yards. Breida had 121 rushing yards. Mostard had 83. Wilson had 34. He also had 2 touchdowns. Samuel had 86 receiving yards and a touchdown. Marquise Goodwin had 77 yards and a touchdown. Mostard had 68 yards and a touchdown. Kittle had 54 yards. Guys, I think right now the Niners are probably one of the most underrated teams in the league. And I really think that if they can keep playing the way they are right now, they probably will at least make the wild card in the playoffs. They're very dangerous right now, and I don't think a lot of people realize this. They are 2-0 right now in the season, and they were both road games. That's not easy to do in the NFL, and the Niners are making it look easy. Next game is the Giants and the Bills, and let me just pull this up for the stats. The Bills are also 2-0, guys. I mean, what's going on? Josh Allen was, and I'm sorry, the Bills won that game 28-14. I did pick the Giants to win that game, and I was wrong. I thought they would probably bounce back. Josh Allen was 19 of 30 for 253 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. Frank Gore 68 rushing yards and a touchdown. Singletary 57 rushing yards and a touchdown. Allen also had 21 rushing yards and a touchdown. Beasley with 83 receiving yards. Brown with 72. McKenzie with 40 and the touchdown on the receiving side of it. While the Giants, Eli Manning was 26 of 45 for 250 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Barkley with 107 rushing yards and a touchdown, so he's still performing, like anybody expects. Fowler with 51 receiving yards, Ingram with 48, Jones with 38 and a touchdown, and after that, kind of lackluster. Just some news in addition to this. Eli Manning got benched in favor of Daniel Jones for week 3. I know there was rumors that there may be trades, etc., things like that. I don't know anything else at the moment. I just know that Eli is getting benched in favor of Daniel Jones for week 3. Moving on to the very next game is the Chargers and the Lions. Now for this game, I picked the Chargers to win, and they didn't. So I was wrong for that game as well. And as soon as I can pull up the stats here, the Lions won 13-10. Moving on to the Chargers side of it real quick, Rivers was 21 of 36, 293 yards, but an interception, no touchdowns. Eckler was 66 rushing yards and a touchdown. Jackson with 59. On the receiving end of it, Keenan Allen had 8 receptions for 98 yards. Williams had 83 receiving yards. They didn't really have anything else. I mean, they had plenty of yards, they just couldn't score. Doesn't seem like the Lions did that much better anyway. Moving to their stats, Stafford was 22 of 30 for 245 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. Kerryon Johnson with 41 yards. The other Johnson, I'm sorry, forgive me, I don't know his first name, 30 rushing yards. Galladay had 117 receiving yards and a touchdown. Kerryon Johnson also had 47 receiving yards and a touchdown. After that, it's anybody's game. Again, I picked the Chargers to win that game, and they didn't. So far, it's half and half as far as my picks go. I mean, it didn't turn out too bad at the end, and we'll get to that before I make the predictions for Week 3. The next game is Tennessee Titans and the Colts. Colts ended up winning 19-17. I picked Tennessee at home because I figured maybe they would be able to. I mean, they destroyed Cleveland in Week 1. Obviously, the Titans aren't that good looking at the second week. I'm not saying that they're bad or anything, but a Week 1 is a very, very interesting time in the NFL. Everybody is assuming something just off of one game. It's a lot harder to get an idea of a team based off of just one game and one opponent. But anyway, the Colts won 19-17. Brissett was 17 of 28 for 146 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Wilkins had 82 rushing yards. Mack had 51 rushing yards and most of the carries. T.Y. Hilton had 43 receiving yards and a touchdown. Ebron had 25 receiving yards and a touchdown. Campbell had 12 receiving yards and a touchdown. That was enough for them to get up over the Titans. Just a glimpse over their stats real quick. Mariota was 19 of 28, 154 yards and a touchdown. Derrick Henry had 82 rushing yards and a touchdown. And receiving yards, nobody broke 50 as far as receiving for the Titans. Walker had 39, Davis 38, Brown 25, Sharp 24. The lone receiving touchdown coming off of Quisenberry. I'm sorry if I butcher the shit out of that name. That was one of the other games that I picked wrong. I really thought Tennessee could do it at home. They didn't. And moving on to the next game, we have Dallas and Washington. I picked Dallas to win that, and lo and behold, they beat the Redskins in Washington 31-21. Dak Prescott was 26 of 30 for 269 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. A lot of people are claiming he's an early MVP candidate. Elliott had 111 rushing yards and a touchdown. Prescott also had 69 rushing yards. Receiving-wise, Smith had 74 yards and a touchdown. Gallup had 68 yards. Cooper 44 and a touchdown. Witten 25 and a touchdown. Randall Cobb getting in there with 5 catches, 24 yards. Right now, guys, I really do think Dallas is going to win the NFC East. It all depends on how the rest of the season goes, but just a quick glimpse and everything like that, they look like they're poised to win it. Let me move on to the Redskins side. Keenum was 26 of 37 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he's still playing decently. I haven't seen a lot of Redskins footage, so I can't really say what I think the issue is with the team right now. Peterson had 25 rushing yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin has 62 receiving yards and a touchdown. He seems to be becoming the number 1 receiver for that team early on. Richardson was the only other receiving touchdown for the Redskins. Thompson had 48 yards, Quinn 36, Davis 29. Again, I did pick Dallas to win that game, and they did win. Moving on to Houston and Jacksonville. I did not really watch this game, but just looking at the score, I know it was boring. Houston Texans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars in Houston, 13-12. For that one, I did pick Houston, so that was very, very close. Very close. Minshew was 23 of 33 for 213 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. He also had 56 rushing yards. Fournette had 47 rushing yards. Conley with 73 receiving yards. Chark with 55 receiving yards and a touchdown. Fournette with 40 receiving yards. Moving on to the Texans side of it, Watson was 16 of 29 for 159 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Hyde had 90 rushing yards. Watson had 5 rushing yards and a touchdown. Hopkins with 40 receiving yards. Fuller with 40. Stills with 38. Akins with 25. After that, not much to speak of. I guess the Jacksonville Jaguars are still hurting after the Nick Foles loss. However, Minshew didn't seem like he's been playing too bad, but I think Jacksonville's almost in a rebuild state at this point as well. And if I'm not mistaken, they are suffering a few injuries. Moving on to New England and Miami. I, like everybody else in the nation, picked New England over Miami, and without a doubt, there was no way that you could even imagine Miami was going to win this game. Patriots won 43-0 in Miami. Brady, 20 of 28, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sony Michel had 83 rushing yards and a touchdown. Burkhead with 21 rushing yards. White with 10. Brady did get a 1-yard rush and a touchdown. Antonio Brown made his debut with the Patriots. 4 catches with 56 yards and a touchdown. Edelman with 51 receiving yards. Burkhead with 47. Dorsett with 39. And White with 19 and a touchdown. Gordon had 2 catches for 19 yards as well. On to the Miami side of it. Fitzpatrick was 11 of 21 for 89 yards and 3 interceptions. Rosen was 7 of 18 for 97 yards and an interception. I haven't really watched the footage, so I don't know if it's just a quarterback issue, if it is a whole team issue. I mean, basically, and let me just go over the stats again real quick. Drake with 19 rushing yards, Walton with 15, um, Williams with 63 receiving yards, Drake with 29. I mean, that's really all to talk about. Nobody else had pushed over 50 receiving yards. Nobody had over 20 rushing. This team is in a complete rebuild right now, and to be honest, they might be for the next couple seasons. They already traded away Minka Fitzpatrick to the Steelers. I don't entirely remember what they got for it. If I'm not mistaken, Miami's going to end up with like 2 or 3 first-round picks to try and rebuild the team through the draft. Who knows what they're going to do in free agency? I'm sure they'll have a good bit of money to do something. Um, and I did take New England for that game. I don't think anybody was really swinging the other way. Next game was Seattle at Pittsburgh. This has a lot of implications as far as how the AFC is going to shake out. Because right now, it seems like there's only 2 teams in the AFC that are going to even make it to the playoffs. Every other team will just get in by luck at this point. I did take Seattle to beat Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. They did win 28-26 against the Steelers. Seahawks were Russell Wilson was 29 of 35 for 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I still think he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks in the league, especially given his height and what he has to do for his offense. Penny had 62 rushing yards and a touchdown. Carson 60 rushing yards. Tyler Lockett with the bulk of the receiving yards with 79 off 10 catches. DK Metcalf, the rookie, with 61 yards and a touchdown off 3 catches. Turner with 54 receiving yards. The up-and-coming tight end for the Seahawks, Disley, with 50 yards off 5 catches, 2 touchdowns, really helping out the team. I think Seattle's offense is better than everybody gives them credit for. I don't know if they're going to be like a Super Bowl contender just yet, but they are definitely going to go to the playoffs, I think. If they can keep this up offensively, they're going to be a dangerous team. Steelers side of it, Big Ben was 8 of 15 for 75 yards before he got hurt. It was an elbow injury, and he is out for the season. That's big, guys. I don't know if he's going to come back next year, if he's going to retire, or what the deal is going to be. I don't know. I mean, as of right now, it looks like they're going to go with Mason Rudolph. He did come in and go 12 of 19 with 112 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. I didn't watch this game either, so I don't know exactly how it went down, but they did only lose by 2 points. Still got to be concerning if you're a Steelers fan. You've had Big Ben for quite a long time, and all of a sudden you don't. Connor with 33 rushing yards and a touchdown. I heard he might have gotten injured as well. Snell had a run for 23 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster, 5 catches, 84 yards, and after that, not a whole lot to back him up. However, Vance McDonald did get 2 touchdowns on the day with 38 receiving yards. Again, the AFC is slowly coming down to basically 2 teams, the Chiefs and the Patriots, with the Steelers having an injury to Roethlisberger, and the only other team right now you could even think that might really make a push other than Chiefs and Patriots might be the Ravens. The only thing is there's a lot of time between now and then, so I don't want to go making any assumptions or anything like that just yet. Let me move on to Kansas City and Oakland. I took Kansas City in that game, and for a while I was scared. They were down 10-0 in the first quarter. All of a sudden they rattle off 28 straight points in the second quarter, and that's all they needed because they won the game 28-10 anyway. Mahomes was 30 with 44 for 443 yards, 4 touchdowns. LaShawn McCoy, 23 rushing yards. That was really all they had for the rushing game, but that's all they needed. Robinson had 172 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns off 6 catches. Travis Kelce did Travis Kelce things, 7 catches, 107 yards and a touchdown. Hardman had 61 receiving yards and a touchdown. Watkins with 49. Moving over to the Raiders side of things, Derek Carr was 23 of 38, 198 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Jacobs had 99 rushing yards. Waller had 63 receiving. Williams from the Chargers, that is Tyrell Williams, 46 receiving yards and a touchdown. And after that, Not a whole lot to add up. Uh, like I said, Chiefs are going to be the Chiefs, and now they got a better defense, so it very well could come down to New England and Kansas City in the AFC Championship. Obviously, this is way too early to punch tickets and everything like that, but right now I don't see any other teams that are going to compete that hard. I mean, you look at the Ravens. The Ravens are impressive, and if you're a Ravens fan, I get it. You have every reason to be excited about Lamar Jackson and what you're seeing. The thing is, you guys beat the Dolphins 59-10 in Week 1. We've already established that the Dolphins are the worst team in the league for obvious reasons. You go at home and you play the Cardinals with a rookie quarterback, and you barely beat them. Again, I'm not talking shit or anything. I'm just saying, stay humble. You've got no, um, you've got no reason to not be excited. But just keep in mind, it's been 2 weeks, 2 weeks, guys, 2 weeks, 2 games, two opponents, both of which seem that they are not the upper half of the league. So just take a little relax, wait and see how the rest of the season goes, but stay excited. You have every reason to be excited, but just stay humble. That's all. Um, let's move on to Chicago, Denver. That had a very, very, very wild finish to the game. A very questionable roughing the passer call. Um, on the Broncos when Chicago's offense was on the field. However, it was enough for Chicago to get close enough to get a field goal. I think they found a kicker now. Eddie Pinheiro made a 52 or 53-yard field goal to win the game. I'm not entirely sure. I know it was at least 52 yards. Looking at the passing, Trubisky was 16 of 27 for 120 yards. No touchdowns, but no interceptions. So, still like to see a little bit better out of Trubisky. Montgomery had 62 rushing yards with a touchdown. Patterson with 50. Receiving, Allen Robinson with 41, and nobody else cracked 30. Head over to the Broncos side when everybody thought that they were going to win. Flacco was 35 of 50 for 292 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. So they've probably been getting a little bit better quarterback play than they have in recent years. However, is it enough? Don't know. Freeman with 54 rushing yards. Sanders had 98 receiving yards for a touchdown and the 2-point conversion to take the lead near the end of the game. Freeman had 48 receiving yards. Cortland Sutton 40 after that. Noah Fant 33. Lindsey 30. Not a whole lot to speak of. Again, it was 16-14. For that game, I did take Chicago to win, and I was scared for the longest time. But they did come out and win. Moving on, we have the Saints and the Rams. Probably one of the more hyped up games considering the playoff implications this game could eventually have, the future scenarios for the playoffs for both of these teams, and just how the playoffs ended to lead into the Super Bowl last year with the Saints and the Rams game. The game did end 27-9 for the Rams, winning. I did pick the Saints. I was wrong. And I'm not going to say it was entirely because of Drew Brees getting injured. It might have ended differently, however, I still think the Rams would have won that game. Just to look at some of the Saints stats, Brees was 3 of 5 for 38 yards and an interception. Not very, how do I want to say it? Not very encouraging. Bridgewater did come in eventually and went 17 of 30 for 165 yards. No touchdowns, but no interceptions either. Alvin Kamara had 45 rushing yards on 13 attempts. Michael Thomas had 10 catches for 89 yards. After that, nobody cracked 50 on receiving. Going over to the Rams, who they look just as good as they were last year, if I'm honest. Goff was 19 of 28, 283 yards and a touchdown, no interceptions. Gurley with 63 rushing yards and a touchdown. Brown with 37 rushing yards. Cooper Kupp emerging as a very good, reliable weapon for Jared Goff with 5 catches and 120 yards. Brandon Cooks was 74 yards off 3 catches and a touchdown. Robert Woods 33 yards. After that, nobody cracked 30. Again, the NFC is a little bit harder to pick up on. You've got 2 heavyweight teams in the AFC right now, and I don't think anybody in the NFC is necessarily a heavyweight. I mean, if you wanted to look at it that way, I guess you could say the Cowboys and the Rams at the moment. I wouldn't quite count the Saints out. The 49ers are very underrated. They could be a very surprising team. I think you got to throw the Seahawks and the Packers in there just as being, I don't want to say necessarily dark horse Super Bowl teams, but dark horse playoff teams. For now, again, it's early, guys. It's 2 weeks in, but yeah, the AFC is kind of winding down to like two teams, while the NFC is kind of a mix. There's maybe one or two teams that kind of stand out, but not by a whole lot more than a few other teams. Um, let's move on to the Falcons and the Eagles game. That game also had a very crazy finish. Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey getting hurt in the game. I did take Atlanta to win that game, and they won 24-20 against the Eagles. It was close. It came down to the very end. Carson Wentz was 25 of 43 for 231 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions. McCown did come in and play. He went 3 of 5 for 24 yards. Sanders had 28 rushing yards. Wentz had 3 rushing yards off 3 carries and 1 touchdown. Aguilar had 107 receiving yards and a touchdown. Ertz with 72 receiving yards. Hollins with 50. Moving on to the Falcons side of it, Matt Ryan was 27 of 43 for 320 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions as well. So that's a little concerning if you're a Falcons fan. However, again, it's super early. I wouldn't panic or anything yet. Same thing if you're an Eagles fan. I wouldn't panic yet. You guys are getting all these injuries at the moment very early on in the season. You got plenty of time to recover from it as long as you guys can stay stable. Maybe go 5 and keep it around 500 so you can win the same amount as you lose and make it back until everybody gets healthy. I think you guys will be in a good spot. Again, back to the stats side of everything. Smith had 32 rushing yards. Julio Jones had 106 receiving yards off 5 catches, 2 touchdowns. Calvin Ridley had 105 receiving yards and a touchdown. Freeman was 24. Hooper with 34. Nobody else cracked 20. I think the Falcons do have the best wide receiver duo in the league right now with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley as far as productivity goes. That's my opinion. I haven't looked at the stats to see if there is a clear-cut better duo. I just think that right now, I think Calvin Ridley is a perfect complement to Julio Jones, and eventually with them taking up a lot of the coverage and everything, it's going to open up opportunities for everybody else. Again, I did pick the Falcons to win that game. They did win. Moving on to the final game, the Monday night game. I fell asleep at halftime, guys. This game was really boring early on. Sam Darnold was out with mono. Cleveland Brown, everybody is wondering, are the Cleveland Browns as good as everybody hyped them up to be? Are they going to live up to the hype? Are they going to perform? I would say they did and they didn't. It's not the most exciting game, but they did win. And that is what matters. And they did win by a good bit. How much of that is because Darnold didn't play? I don't know. Unfortunately, they started Trevor Siemian. He got hurt early on because the O-line for the Jets just couldn't do anything. They could not stop the Browns' front 7 at all, and that's why they lost 23-3. Guys, I picked the Jets to win this game, and I was wrong. I was really thinking that they might bounce back. I thought it was going to be a close game, and Cleveland was going to lose by 3 or 4 points. Turns out I was wrong. Cleveland blew out the Jets. I also didn't know Darnold was out with a mono, so I think if he played, it would have been a little bit different. Might not have been a completely different outcome. They might have lost anyway, but I don't think it would have been as much. Hard to say. Anywho, looking at the Browns stats, Baker Mayfield went 19 of 35 for 325 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, so not too bad. Chubb with 62 rushing yards and a touchdown. OBJ, first time coming back to MetLife Stadium, not wearing a New York uniform. 6 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. Ratley had 50 receiving yards. Johnson with 42. Chubb 36. Landry 32. Moving on to the Jets statistics, there's not a whole lot to look at. Luke Falk was the third-string quarterback. He went 20 of 25 for 198 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Trevor Siemian was 3 of 6 for 3 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. So that kind of gives you an idea of what their offense looked like early on and why I fell asleep at halftime. Le'Veon Bell had 21 carries for 68 yards. Montgomery had 3 carries for 25 yards. Robbie Anderson, 4 catches, 81 yards. Le'Veon Bell, 10 catches, 61 yards. Right now, Le'Veon Bell is that team's offense. I don't know about week 1. I didn't see too much, and I don't remember the stats, to be honest. But as of week 2, he was the team's whole offense, and that was about it. Crowder with 40 yards. Didn't really get a whole lot of separation on Cleveland's secondary. Again, I picked the Jets to win that game, and I was wrong, guys. Cleveland's now 1-1, or I think they're on the right track. They do look a lot better than they did week 1. That's how a lot of these first week games went. A lot of the starters for these teams did not play in the preseason at all, and you could tell. There was a lot of rust, there was a lot of miscommunication, timing issues, you name it, it was there. After a week or two, I think a lot of these players and teams are going to get a lot better as far as the playing and the experience goes. They're not going to have a lot of rust, things like that. So I think starting week 3 is when you're going to start to see some of these teams start to become what they're supposed to be. Whether it's, what they want to be or not, right now they're going to develop into what they should be. Like Miami, they're tanking. I don't know if they're doing it on purpose or not. They're getting rid of a lot of their players. They got outscored by a lot. The week 1 game, it was 59-10. Week 2 is 43-0. They're getting absolutely destroyed. They are literally the worst team in the NFL right now. The Patriots are doing Patriot things. Cowboys are emerging as probably one of the better teams in the NFC right now. Steelers are kind of falling. The Saints are staggering a little bit because nobody knows what they're going to be like without Breeze, what they're going to be like when he comes back, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of time left in the season for a lot of things to change. So, for fans of any of these teams out there, don't get too butthurt. Don't get too excited. Just look at it 1 week at a time, and just every team out there has had that season where they're like, "Oh, we're done. We're done." It's, Aaron Rodgers got hurt for the Packers. We're like, "Oh, that's great. We're out. There's no way we're coming back or anything like that." Plenty of teams have had situations like that. So everybody's going to have it. You just take it as it comes. I still root for my team no matter what. We win or lose. They're still my team at the end of the day. Now we're going to move on to my week 3 predictions. As I'm doing this video right now, the Jags and the Titans are already playing the game. I'm not going to let that deter who I was going to pick to win, because I was honestly going to pick the Titans to win. At the moment that I am recording this, the Jaguars are up 14-0. I did originally take the Titans to win the game. I'm going to stick with that regardless of what I'm seeing right now. I don't know if they're... Honestly, I assume they're playing Minshew. I don't think they're really going to do anything as far as, make any crazy attempts to trade for like Eli Manning or anything. I think they're going to play out the season as it goes and just let it... Wherever it lands is wherever it lands. Cowboys are going to host the Dolphins. I see the Cowboys winning that game. I don't see any reason in my mind whatsoever that would lead me to believe the Dolphins would pull off a win against the Cowboys. It's not happening, guys. The Bengals and the Bills. I think the Bills, and their Bills are at home. I think the Bills are going to win this game. Josh Allen's been looking a lot better. Everything that I'm hearing says he's probably got the best coaching staff around him possible. Very underrated coaching. They don't put Josh Allen in a position to fail, to lose, anything like that from all the sources that I've seen. And I agree so far. Very noticeable difference between the Buffalo Bills this season and last year alone. The Lions and the Eagles for this game, I am taking the Lions. I think they are going to bounce back a little bit considering how week 1 went. Week 2 not too much better. With Alshon Jeffrey and Aguilar hurt, I haven't seen what the injuries are like. I don't know if they're coming back or not. I'm taking the Lions to win this game. I think it's going to be close, but I can see the Lions winning it. The Jets, Patriots. Patriots are winning that one, guys. It's at home. It's the Patriots. Darnold, I don't even know if he's still out with mono, but I don't think it's going to matter. Patriots are going to win that game. Falcons Colts. This one is a little tough, and because they're both 1-1, and I haven't seen enough from either one of these teams to say that they would definitely beat the one or the other. Falcons defense has been playing better, but I think the Colts offense has been playing better compared to each team's respective Week 1 performances. Um, for that fact alone, I'm going to take the Colts simply because they're at home. Moving on to the Vikings and the Raiders, I'm going to take the Raiders on this one. I think Kirk Cousins is probably going to have another down game. It's probably not going to be as bad as he was against the Vikings. I'm sorry, against the Packers. But I do think the Raiders are probably going to do just enough to eke out like maybe a 20-17 win or a 23-20 win. Um, Moving on to the Ravens and Chiefs, I almost wanted to take the Ravens as an upset. I don't see it happening simply because it's at Kansas City. Kansas City played Baltimore last year and won, and the overall scoring difference wasn't that much. I believe it was like a one possession game. I think it's going to be different this year because the Chiefs' defense is better. I think their offense is probably just as good as it was last year. So I think they're going to hold Lamar Jackson to maybe like a 10-point difference. Maybe it might be a touchdown game again. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm taking the Chiefs to win that game. The Broncos are going to travel into Green Bay to play the Packers. I see Green Bay winning this game off their defense. I think it's also going to be a close game anyway. Rodgers might have to pull out like a miracle play or two here and there, just as far as some clutch moments. The Packers offense did look better in week 2 than they did in week 1, so I'm hoping they're going to keep trending in that direction. But I do think it's going to be the defense that wins the game for us again. Taking the Packers to win. Cardinals Panthers. Cam Newton has not looked himself pretty much at all this season. I don't think he's as good of a thrower as he was. I haven't seen the game, so I don't know for sure. I'm just looking at it statistically. I know they don't have a whole lot of weapons on that team, but he's been wildly inaccurate right now. I do think Kyler Murray will get his first win against the Panthers. It's in Arizona, so I think he has everything working for him as far as his first NFL win. The Giants are playing the Buccaneers. Guys, this is tough too. As far as I know, Eli Manning's getting benched for Daniel Jones. Tampa Bay hasn't been playing bad either, and they are at home. If they were not playing Daniel Jones for the Giants, I would probably take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win. I think Daniel Jones is going to be that much better than Eli Manning that they are going to win. I don't think it's going to be a blowout or anything like that, but I am taking the Giants to win this game simply because they are not playing Eli Manning. They are playing Daniel Jones. Moving on to the Saints Seahawks. Bridgewater is going to be a serviceable backup quarterback to Breeze. However, it is in Seattle. Seattle's offense has been playing good. Russell Wilson's playing good. The defense might be a little shoddy, but with Breeze being out and Bridgewater being the quarterback, I don't see the Saints offense being all that scary. I'm going to take Seattle to win that game, especially at home. Texans Chargers. Houston's going to the Chargers' house. I honestly can see this game going either way. I'm going to take the Texans because I don't think the Chargers' defense is that amazing, and I think the Texans' offense can do a little bit more than what the Chargers' defense can stop. You look at the Chargers' offense, there's no Melvin Gordon, there's Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, and Mike Williams. Hunter Henry, been a little bit inconsistent so far, and maybe I'm wrong, but as far as how they've been playing, I can't entirely sit here and say that, yes, I think the Chargers are going to dominate the Texans. I also can't say that I think the Texans are going to dominate the Chargers. I think it's going to be a close game. It might be a touchdown game difference, a 10-point difference. I don't see it being anywhere more than 3 or 10-point total difference as far as the scoring goes. But I am taking the Texans to win that game. The Niners are playing their first home game against the Steelers. Keep in mind, the Steelers just lost Big Ben. The Niners rattled off 41 points against the Bengals. I'm not saying the Bengals are amazing, but their offense has been clicking. They're getting productivity out of pretty much every position on that team. I am taking the Niners to win that game, being at their first home game, in addition to the fact that Ben Roethlisberger will not be starting for the Steelers anymore this season. The Rams are going into Cleveland to play the Browns. This would be probably one of the biggest underdog matchups of the century, given the circumstances. The Rams representing the NFC in the Super Bowl last year. Cleveland Browns 1 year removed from having an 0-16 season. Cleveland was super hyped in the offseason. Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry, Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb. They signed Kareem Hunt. They eventually signed Odell Beckham Jr. They pick up Olivier Vernon. They are at home, and that is one thing they have going for them. However, I don't think they're going to be able to do enough to beat the Rams. I think it may end up being closer than a lot of people imagine. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I do think the Rams are going to beat Cleveland in Cleveland. Moving on to the Monday night game, the final game of the Week 3 slate of games. Chicago Bears go into Washington to play the Redskins. I'm taking the Redskins to win this game, and here's why. Chicago's defense is that's the best thing that they have going for their team. That and their kicker. Mitchell Trubisky is not the franchise quarterback for the Bears. He is right now, but I don't think he will be in the next 2 or 3 seasons. I don't think he's playing well enough to warrant that level of confidence. He's not. There are plenty of throws that I've seen him make, and I'm like, why are you doing that? That's a dumb decision. And call it whatever you want. Pressure from the defense, heat of the moment, whatever. But I don't think he's it. I don't think he's it. It's the same. I don't think Kirk Cousins is the quarterback for the Vikings. I mean, he is because he's wearing the jersey and he's the one starting, but he's not the franchise quarterback. He's not what the Vikings need. He's definitely not playing like it. Case Keenum statistically hasn't been playing that bad. And don't forget, he's started for a lot of teams. He's got a lot more experience than Trubisky does. He may not be as young, but he did take the Vikings to the NFC Championship. If that counts for anything, he's got experience. He's played. He may not be amazing, but I think he's a little bit more consistent than Trubisky. And I think that's what that game is probably going to come down to. I don't think the Redskins' defense is amazing. The Bears' defense is really good. I just think that Case Keenum is going to play a little bit better than Trubisky, and I think it's going to be a close game with the Redskins winning. Those are my predictions for Week 3, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. Again, I'm not making these picks hoping that everybody out there is going to make the same picks, and when I'm wrong, they blame me for them making the wrong decisions either. That's not what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this for fun. It's just something to kill some time in between my other videos. But that's about it. We already went over the major injuries and the news updates. Like I said, Minka Fitzpatrick getting traded to the Steelers. The only other big thing that I did not mention is Jalen Ramsey is seeking a trade. Right now, the front-running teams to land him are the Chiefs, Seahawks, and the Eagles, with the Eagles being the highest, I believe, at the moment. Nothing has come from that yet. It's just what I heard. It's news, it's rumors. There's nothing official. The only thing that was official is that he apparently requested a trade. But that's it for this video, guys. We're going to come back after the Week 3 games, probably around the same time, either the Thursday before the first game of Week 4, maybe that Wednesday. We'll do a little recap, see how the picks went, see how the games went. I'm going to drop some stats, just give food for thought for all of you football fans. I'm a huge football fan. I try to watch as many games as I can, even if I don't stay up as late to finish them. But that's it. I'm going to see all of you casuals in the next one. Bye!